You've got questions, I've got answers. Welcome to responding to my comments. I'm Tina. I am a registered dental hygienist. I am a new grad. I graduated in May of 2025 and I passed the board exams in July of 2025 and started working. If you are new here, if you're not, welcome back. Nice to have you. And I've had this YouTube channel since before I started dental hygiene school, actually. I think I posted my first video in maybe July of 2023, maybe ish, around that time. I'll link it up above, but it was kind of everything you need to know before you get into dental hygiene school. And I don't even know why I'm linking the first video I ever posted on this channel. Like, so embarrassing. But that's beside the point. The point is that throughout the time that I've had this YouTube channel, I've gotten really great comments on things like the school I went to, which I didn't answer at the time because I was in school and I don't want to tell people on the internet what school I go to, and I literally am at that school. And just other questions that I've gotten that I've answered, but I thought they were great questions and I decided to put them all into one video. So a little bit of backstory. I used to be a flight attendant for 11 years and then I transitioned into dental hygiene. The first thing I did when I graduated in July was I temped. So that's kind of like, if you want to call it like a travel dental hygienist, a lot of patients understand it to be like a substitute teacher. So when somebody's out of the office, I go in and I, make sure the patients are seen, everything that they need to get done is done, things like that. Some people call it like a travel nurse, and don't quote me, but I think that when you're a travel nurse, you can travel from state to state. You can't do that as a dental hygienist. Well, you can, but you would have to be licensed. So I live in Minnesota. If I wanted to travel to Wisconsin, I would have to get licensed in Wisconsin. I can't just go to Wisconsin and go to work. So similar to that, but for the past 2-3 weeks now, I've had a permanent job and my preferred schedule is Monday, Tuesday, off Wednesday, Thursday, with the possibility of doing a Friday every now and then, but certainly not 3 days in a row. However, for my new job, when I was getting onboarded, my boss asked me, would you be okay doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for just a couple of weeks because we have these patients here and we don't want to move them? I stupidly, against my better judgment, said yes. Biggest mistake. I should have said no. I cannot tell you how tired I have been these past 2 weeks. Thursday is basically just a complete recover day. I did get a lot done yesterday. This week, I will admit, I'm working on launching my business, launching my digital products. That's coming Monday, I promise. If you're not subscribed already, make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss that. I have something really fun coming up. I'm really excited and I think you will be too. So this week was a little bit more productive than last week. Last week, I was just like dead, but I was still, it's not for me. 3 days in a row of clinical dental hygiene, for me, it's a lot. It really is a lot. And I'm not going to make any excuses. I'm not going to apologize. It's just a lot. I don't want to do it. So I don't do it. And I will never do it again. You will never, never see me in that office on another Wednesday. It's just not going to happen. Like, I can't do it. I can't do it. And I think one of the wonderful things about being an adult is that you have free will, number one. And also you learn to know your limits. And I can't do 3 days of dental hygiene in a row. I simply can't. So moving on to the question and answer portion of the video. I think the one question that I couldn't answer when I was in dental hygiene school, and I did answer, and I think it's probably in my description box now, but what school did you go to? I went to Normandale Community College in Minnesota, Bloomington, Minnesota. It's a suburb of Minneapolis. Normandale has a 2-year dental hygiene program. You do earn your associate's degree at the end. And like I've talked about before on this channel, there is no difference in job prospects or pay, whether you have your associates in your bachelor's. Of course, if you have your bachelor's, you've obviously gone to school more. So I will say that you probably have more knowledge, but it's not like you're necessarily just a better dental hygienist because you have a bachelor's. An associate's degree definitely teaches you everything you need to know to be a hygienist. So I went to the associate's program and, overall, I really enjoyed it. I have the type of personality where I'm gonna look on the bright side of things. Was it perfect? No. Were there some teachers who were, sour and negative and they didn't apply things fairly to everybody, or who were totally horrible to some people, or who made it their mission to be negative and try to tell you couldn't do things? Yeah, there were, but that's their cross to bear and that's their personality, and they're the ones going home at night with that attitude and that perspective and being that person, so that really has nothing to do with me. I'm gonna let you be who you are, and then at the end of 2 years, less than 2 years really, 2 school years, I'm gonna be out of there and I'm never gonna see you again. So you can keep all that and keep doing that and do whatever you gotta do. I made the most of it. Overall, I enjoyed it. I know that wasn't the same for everybody in my class, including some of my friends. Some of my friends had really bad experiences. They had teachers really treat them poorly. And I'm just glad that that didn't happen to me because, I might have had a different experience as far as like I might not have made it out of the program because some of the things that these teachers said to these people, it's like, as a teacher, I have a level of respect for you. So I'm not going to like fight with you or anything like that, but there's a line, right? I'm an adult and you're an adult and this is a learning environment. So like we have to have a certain level of respect between each other. And I think that level of respect was not there between some students and teachers, which is unfortunate. But like I said, I'm glad it didn't happen to me because we might have had a different story. Next question, what they asked: when you're in school, how does the schedule work? Does the school pick your schedule or do you pick your schedule? That's another great question. So because I am a total weirdo, and also because I applied, I think 4 times before I got into Normandale, what I did was, on the website, they tell you when you're in the first semester of dental hygiene school, you have these classes, second semester, these classes, so on and so forth. So what I did was I just acted like I was a student and I was going to be registering for classes. And well before I maybe even applied, but well before I got in, I was just tracking, okay, if I was taking this class, what time is it offered? Okay, I wrote it down. Second class, okay, it's offered on this time. I would be at school on this day during this time. Third class, oh, they have options, either this day, this day, this day. So I did that for the entire 4 semesters. And I kind of like mapped out my schedule. So the answer to that question is the school picks your schedule, but there is like some picking you can do, but really you can't pick that much because it's like if you pick one class at this time, there will be another class going on that you can't take because you've picked that class. Does that make sense? I think the best way to put it is the classes had sections. So like if you picked section 1 for the class that had options, you were gonna have to pick section 1 on all the other classes that had options because they would line up. So you have like a little bit of choice, but not really any choice, to be honest with you. But like I said, because I had been doing this for years, I already knew on my first day of dental hygiene school, I knew what my schedule was going to be the last semester of dental hygiene school. It made it fun for me to be like, oh, this is what my life is going to be like when I'm in dental hygiene school, but they do pick the schedule for the most part. The next question was, I'm not really passionate about anything, and the things I'm passionate about don't make money, so I don't want to go to school for it. Dental hygiene is something I should tolerate. Should I still go to dental hygiene school? So I would say, to be totally honest, I'm also not passionate about dental hygiene. I'm not. There are people on YouTube who are passionate about dental hygiene, and I stay out of that lane because I'm not going to come on YouTube and make videos about dental hygiene and how to improve your oral health and that. That's not what I do. I go to work and I get paid for that. I'm not doing that for fun on my free time. Simply not what I'm doing. I'm gonna stay in my lane. I'm gonna let them stay in their lane. That being said, I think that there is, for me personally, it has been really nice to, in dental hygiene school, because now as a permanent hygienist, since I've just moved to temping, I had actually one person that I saw, and then 6 months later I saw them. It just happened to be at this office that I temped at a lot. And it was really nice to like see him and be able to like see how the things we talked about, how they worked or didn't work. But I will say in school, it was really nice to have a patient ask me a question and be able to give them an answer. And they're like, oh, I didn't know that. Or when I did see them again, they told me, oh, I've started doing what you told me and things are changing and things are better. That was really rewarding. I will definitely say that. And I think that I'm going to see a lot more of that now that I have a permanent job. Of course, it depends on if the patient does or does not follow my oral hygiene instructions. But really, I think the most important thing is that you have to understand that this is a job where you're doing pretty much the same thing every day. First of all, you're going to the same place, seeing the same people every day, which is something that I never wanted to do. I've really never done. As a flight attendant, you work with different pilots, and I worked alone in the back. I didn't have another flight attendant with me, but it was like different pilots every time. As a temp, I'm going to different offices every time. So I'm not used to going to the same place every day, seeing the same people as far as my coworkers. If you're not wanting to do the same thing every day, being that like you go get the patient from the lobby, you bring them back, you make small talk, you look at their medical history, you take their blood pressure, you're gonna do some perio probing, check the gum health, and you're gonna start cleaning, and then you're gonna call for an exam, and then you're gonna write the notes, and then you're gonna clean the room, and then you're gonna do all that over again multiple times a day. If you don't wanna do that, you probably shouldn't be a dental hygienist. I know there are some people that I went to school with, and they're like, oh, this job is so monotonous, you do the same thing every day. And it's like, yeah, yeah. You didn't know that? Like, haven't you been to the dentist? What did you think that what the dental hygienist was doing with you, that they did something different with everybody else? Like, yeah, it's the same thing every day over and over. So really the point is you need to research, you need to ask questions, you need to actually be realistic. I remember when I was a flight attendant, this one lady, she quit, and her reason for quitting was that she didn't like sleeping at hotels. And it's like, ma'am, well then why were you even here in the first place, ma'am? You thought you were going to be able to be a flight attendant and go on a 4-day trip and not sleep in a hotel? Like, it doesn't work like that. Like, you should have never even pursued this, because that's like the very basics of the job, right? So educate yourself, be smart about it, be realistic about it. And if you don't want to do it, don't do it. But I don't know that you need to be passionate about dental hygiene in order to be a dental hygienist. But if you think that you do need to be passionate about dental hygiene to be a dental hygienist and you're not, don't do it. Don't do it just because you think, oh, it's a great way to make money, because yeah, you'll make money, but you'll hate every day. And I think that there's no amount of money that can replace you hating every day. The next question I got was, is dental hygiene school challenging? And of course that differs from person to person. And I will say for me, dental hygiene school itself was not challenging, but that's coming from a person who school in general has never been very challenging. I don't have like learning disabilities. I don't have ADHD, dyslexia, anything like that that would make it, more challenging than it would be ordinarily. And it's just not challenging for me. But I also go to school, I sit in class, I listen to what the professor says or the teacher says. I take notes about the things that are confusing me. And then that's kind of like all I need to do. I didn't do a lot of studying in dental hygiene school. I hate to say that, but I just go to class, I just listen. And then it's like in there, But there's some people who go to class and we're sitting in the same class. And then after class, we're talking, I'm like mentioning something that happened in class. And they're like, they said that? And I'm like, yeah, she said that. They're like, oh, I didn't hear that. I'm like, how did you not hear it? You were sitting there. You weren't listening? Like, that's the perfect thing to be doing when you're sitting in class, is listening, and taking it in. So for you, it may be challenging. For me, it wasn't challenging. The most challenging part of dental hygiene school for me was life that was happening around dental hygiene school. I had lots of trouble with my car during dental hygiene school. And it was like life is what was tough for me, not school itself. And yes, there were some subjects that were more challenging than others, like pharmacology, not the easiest, but in my day-to-day dental hygiene life, I don't use a lot of pharmacology. There is the internet right there available for my use. If I need to know something related to a drug, I'm just gonna look it up on the internet, and that's what I'm gonna do. Another thing that was a little bit difficult was sometimes the teachers would present information and it was not right. I remember one time in particular, a teacher presented a table and it had this option on this side, this option on the other side, but they had the titles swapped. So, the teacher's explaining it and then people in the class are like, wait, isn't that supposed to be the other one? And it turns out she had them swapped. And it's that is what will throw me forever, because like I said, I'm sitting there and I'm listening, and what goes into my head is what sticks. I'm listening to what you're saying. What you're saying is sticking. What's not sticking is that it was all backwards. I'm like, oh my God. And so that was frustrating, but that's just humans being humans, and things happen, right? Mistakes are made. It's not a big deal. We'll live. The next question was, so are you currently working a full-time job while in school? Did you have to find a night job? I'm finishing up my prerequisites and trying to think ahead of what I might have to do. So I didn't work a full-time job when I was in dental hygiene school, but I did work a part-time job. I worked at the UPS warehouse. And the job was very, very, very part-time. What I mean by that is I think that I was scheduled from 6 o'clock to start, and there was really no specific end time. It was you're finished when the packages are sorted, or if they want to let people go early, they let people go in seniority order. And so you could be let go early, or which would happen a lot is that they would text me or I would text them and be like, do you need me to come in? And they would be like, no, you don't. So there would be some days where I probably went once a week or maybe twice a week, or, went from 6 and then got out at 7:45. It was very, very sporadic. But the good thing about working at UPS, and I would say this is a really, really good thing that you should look into if you're looking into dental hygiene school or any school at all, is UPS had tuition reimbursement. I think they paid $5,000 a year or possibly a semester. I think the max might have been $25,000 total. And that was when I went to school. Things may be different now, but they paid for my tuition, and they paid the tuition directly to the school. So there was no, I had to pay for it and they reimbursed me. They paid it directly to the school. UPS also had really, really good health insurance. So it was totally worth it. It was honestly the greatest job. The job landed in my lap and it was just perfect. It was they pay for my school, they have insurance. And I think the insurance, you don't have to pay anything from your paycheck. It's just fully covered. So I would totally recommend looking into UPS if you're looking into dental hygiene school, but not every hub is the same. Maybe some hubs you have to go at 5 o'clock and you stay till 10 or whatever, but just to know that that is an option out there. And that's what I did. And it made it possible for me to go to dental hygiene school, honestly. And then after I stopped working at UPS, because I heard about this thing called the North Star Promise Scholarship, which was basically the state of Minnesota pays for your school if you meet certain requirements, One of them was if you don't have a bachelor's degree, which I thank my lucky stars that I dropped out of school before I got my bachelor's. I dropped out one semester before I got my bachelor's. If I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have been eligible. And then if your adjusted gross income was under a certain amount, you qualified, which I did. So the state of Minnesota started paying for my school. So I was like, yes, insurance is great, but if I could just not work, I was gonna not work. The money that I was getting from UPS was not enough to like do much of anything. Yes, any money coming in is better than money not coming in, but I wasn't like paying my rent with UPS. I think I made like around probably $25 an hour, but I'm going 2 days a week for 2 hours. We're not making a lot of money, It's just for the tuition reimbursement, just for the insurance that I had the job. So that's how I made that work when I was in school. Next question is about the boards. How was the boards? Well, the boards was a lot. So the board exam is the exam that every dental hygienist has to take nationwide. It's called the NBDHE, National Board Dental Hygiene Examination, I think. And it was scheduled from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. You get some breaks. And I thought for sure I failed. That's a thing you'll hear from a lot of dental hygienists. I took the boards, I know I failed, and then they didn't fail. But I was like, okay, yeah, that's funny and everything. But like the fact of the matter is, I know I failed. Like, this isn't like I think I failed. This is like when I'm leaving the testing center, I'm like, okay, let me Google how long I got to wait after I get my failure notice before I can take the boards again. I'm trying to figure out, what am I going to be doing between then and then? How am I going to make money? I'm like panicking. I started at 8 o'clock. I got out at 11:44. So I was like, yeah, I don't know what the hell they were asking me. I don't know what they were talking about. I didn't pass these boards. I'm like, whatever. It is what it is. I'm gonna have to retake it. That's fine. But lo and behold, I did not fail. I passed the boards. You basically go into a room and there's, like maybe around 10 to 20 other people taking all types of exams, not just dental hygiene exams. There are cameras in the room. There's like a big window where people are watching you take it. You have to like flip your pockets out and roll up your sleeves and have, nothing anywhere so that you're not cheating, obviously. And then I think they gave me like a whiteboard that you can use. I could be wrong on that. It's just like a computer test. You can skip questions if you want and then come back to them. But, like I said, I thought for sure I failed and I didn't. Next question, is your contract work W-2 or 1099? So when I was a temp dental hygienist, there were 3 apps that I used at some point or another. There was one app that I never used. The one app I never used was called Cloud Dentistry. They offered both W-2 and 1099 shifts. You were able to see what was what, and you were able to sort by if you wanted to take 1099 shifts or not. The other 3 were W-2. Now, from what I've done, my research, the legality of working as a 1099 as a dental hygienist, to me, it's questionable. I don't think that we can do that, but you can talk to another dental hygienist and they'll say that you can do that. I don't think we can, so I don't do it. Whatever you do as a dental hygienist, 1099, that's your business. It has nothing to do with me. So I'm not going to worry about that. But when tax time comes, your tax bill is going to be way different than mine is with a 1099 versus a W-2. I know that for a fact. Nobody can argue about that. Another thing that I don't know is if when you work 1099, if you're covered by like malpractice insurance. If not, that's another expense that you have to take on in order to practice in a way that, I guess you don't have to take that on, but I'm not practicing without nobody's malpractice insurance. It's not going to happen. I might need to get malpractice insurance, actually, now that I think about it, because I know that Tiro, one of the temp apps that I used to use and still do sometimes, you're covered by their malpractice insurance. The other 2 apps that I used to use were Quickly and Dental Experts. Dental Experts is now merged with Quickly. I don't use Quickly anymore, and I really never use Dental Experts that much. They came to our class, Dental Experts did this whole pitch about how they support new grads and how they work with you and this, that, and the other. And I didn't find that to be really accurate. And most of the shifts that I worked with them were more trouble than they were worth. There were more problems than I found with other apps. It seemed like their whole process was very like hands-on, like with Tiro and Quickly. It felt very much like you were interacting with an app and computers were handling everything. But with Dental Experts, it felt like there was like a human being touching everything, like as far as getting shifts approved. It just felt too much human interaction, if that makes sense. For example, like if you requested a shift on Friday, you could go all weekend and it wouldn't be approved because there was like nobody there to approve it. I think somebody had to like physically work on it. But if you request a shift on Friday on Tiro, you can get approved over the weekend. I guess that the offices have some type of way to log in and do that. And maybe they do on Dental Experts as well. I don't know, but it just felt that way to me. So there are many ways to do it. I like to do W-2 just because of what makes me feel more comfortable and what I believe to be legal. but whatever you do is up to you and will be between you and Uncle Sam when that tax bill hits. The next question is about my permanent office. So when I got hired there, or when I was talking with the doctor and thinking about working here, she told me about this thing that they have called together time off. I didn't really understand what that meant, but what it boiled down to is that I think she said 6-7 times a year, but I don't know that that's accurate. It might be accurate. Feels like every month. About every month, there's like a week that we're closed. And what she basically meant by together time off is that the office is closed. Nobody's working. Nobody. And she explained that to me at the time, but I'll be honest, I didn't really listen because it doesn't matter to me why you're closed. What matters is that you're closed. Cool. And I can't come to work. Cool. That's it. I don't need to know the reason why, to be honest. Like, am I going to work there? Yes. Then you're closed. Yes. Okay. Then you're closed. I don't need to know the intricacies of why. But if I kind of like think back to what she was saying, I think her reasoning was, number one, she bought this office from somebody else, and this is how it's always been done. There's a lot of things in that office where that's just how they have done things, and that's kind of the way things are continuing to be done, which far be it from me to tell somebody how to run their business, but just because this is the way things have always been done, I don't necessarily know that that's a great way to do things going forward. But again, far be it from me to tell anybody how to run their business. That's not my place. But I think that's one of the reasons. That's how it's always been done. And I think another reason would be because of the size of the office. So it's 2 hygienists, 1 assistant, 1 doctor, and 1 front desk staff. There is no office manager. There's nobody extra. So if the front desk staff is out, who's going to be at the front desk checking people in, answering the phone? Okay, if the assistant can do that, but then who assists the doctor? Like, we don't have enough people to make the office run if one person is out. Now, if a hygienist is out, no big deal, but like, okay, you cancel that hygienist column, you still have another hygienist in the office, you still have a doctor, you still have an assistant, you still have the front desk staff, right? But if the assistant or the front desk staff are out, it kind of like, you can't really run the office. So I think that's another reason why, but I don't know. And I was going to ask my doctor, but there's so many things that I need to ask her and talk to her about, just, settling into my new role. I just haven't made a priority to ask her about that, especially because that's something that we did already talk about. And I know one of my pet peeves is somebody like asking me a question and then they like ask me the same question. It's like, yeah, but I actually already told you that. So why are you wasting my time? Why didn't you listen the first time I told you? So, I don't really want to bring that up when there's other things we could talk about. And then the last question I will answer is, unsure what the rules are in your area, but can you claim these work-related expenses from your tax? For example, your licenses, scrubs, and supplies. This was in one of my budget with me or payday routine videos, which if you haven't checked them out, you can check those out here. But yes, I buy my own scrubs. My office did offer to buy scrubs, but I have my own scrubs. I don't want new scrubs. I like my scrubs. My office does not pay for my dental hygiene license though. And just things that I use, especially when I temp, there's things that I like to take with me that are not provided, but they just make my day easier. And the answer that I gave to that comment, and I'm not 100% sure if this is correct. I'm not a tax professional. Definitely check with your tax professional, because do not let anything you hear on this channel be the reason that Uncle Sam comes after you and then you come talking to me about why did I say this and why did I say that, because I'm not qualified to give you advice. I just do what I think is right for my financial situation. Everybody's financial situation is different, so do your own research. But from what I understand, especially because tax time just passed here in Minnesota, is that if you take standard deductions on your taxes, which is what that comment was talking about, can I deduct them from the taxes? Meaning, which I think a lot of things people don't understand is what a deduction is. And maybe I don't, to be fair, right? I'm not a tax professional, but the way I understand it is, let's say that I had $5,000 of work-related expenses. That would mean that my income in the eyes of the government would be reduced by $5,000. It's going to be less tax because I have less income, because that money came in, but then it went out on work-related expenses. But if I had $5,000 of expenses, work-related expenses that I could deduct, if I'm not mistaken, it wouldn't matter, because you have to have over $16,000 worth of deductions to be above the standard deductions for taxes. So if I were to spend $16,001 on work-related expenses, then yes, I could deduct those from my taxes and then it would reduce my tax burden. But I'm not going to be spending $16,000 on scrubs and my license and supplies. Now, when I get my business off the ground and my business takes off and I have more business related expenses, I would say, yes, I actually hope to at some point spend more than $16,000 a year on those business expenses, but that'll be far down the line. It's not anything that we have to worry about now. That's just the way I understand it. Again, do not quote me on that. Do not take that to the bank, because you might be writing a check that you can't cash. I hope that these answers in one video were helpful to anybody who's asked a question and I either didn't answer or you didn't see it, or you're just curious. And if you're not subscribed yet and you want a free way to support me, I would really appreciate you subscribing. We are so close to 1,000 subscribers, which is the first step into monetizing my YouTube, making YouTube another income stream, which I would be so thankful for. Regardless of if you subscribe or not, come back on Monday. I'm going to be launching my digital products, doing a freebie and doing a challenge. And I think it's going to be really fun. So I hope that you join me. Bye.